Hey y'all, so I have some pretty crazy, exciting, nuts news to share with you. Um, if I felt well enough to drink right now, I'd be sharing a glass of wine with you because it's that kind of news. Um, but my genetic mutation search to explain the periodic paralysis like symptoms that I've been having, we may have found it. And it might be a mutation that is not yet an established mutation. But it turns out it's located on the same gene. And I just got this news like yesterday. I had met with a genetic counselor from Dr. Jarrett's team, and I also had sent a couple of the mutations that I had found to Dr. Stephen Cannon, who is one of the leading researchers in periodic paralysis, to kind of get his take on it. And Dr. Cannon responded yesterday, and I received that response and was blown away. And I apologize because I keep kicking my stand. So yeah, I want to share more about that mutation, the previous testing that I went through, how I found this mutation, because it didn't show up in the formal testing. This was kind of an unorthodox genetic testing that discovered this. So I want to share that. And I want to share some of the details about it in case it might be something that you're interested in doing, but I also want to place some cautions out there about the limitations on that and what you might expect from it, at least in my laywoman's perspective. That was such a, it's hard to put into words, settling. It's the most settled that I have felt probably about my diagnoses, about my conditions in the last 7 years. And it's been about 7 years that I've been trying to find an answer. And even though this is an established cause of Andersen-Tawil Syndrome, this particular mutation is shared by somebody else in the periodic paralysis group that I'm in. And when they followed this path to getting their genetic mutation, at that time it was recognized as probable pathogenic by the ClinVar, and ClinVar is pretty well respected. So there's a good chance that this could be the mutation and that it's just not established yet as a mutation. So I'm feeling very good about that. I'm feeling like I can start to settle down from all of my research into genetics, which is a great feeling. It just feels like my brain has been working endlessly for the past 7 years. So it's really nice. And I want to share with you guys the method that I use. This is something that I learned about through the support groups that I'm in, and I don't want to give anybody like false hope that if you think you have a condition that might not be if you might have a gene mutation that's not yet established as a mutation for that condition, this isn't necessarily going to give you that answer. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of it is based on the limitations of the raw data that's put in and also of the tool that's used to evaluate that data. So in my case, I used the raw data from 23andMe, which was, we got it for the Ancestry component, and I had no idea that you could pull the raw data from 23andMe and use it in this way. But the tool that I used is called Promethease, and I will leave a URL down in the description below if you want to check it out. Basically, in my understanding of what it does is Promethease pulls information from this wiki called SNpedia, which compiles a lot of peer-reviewed scientific journal articles around different genetic conditions. And if your raw data, if it has mutations that match the mutations associated with those publications, then it will flag that for you in the reports. And that's what happened for me. So what I did is, once I had run the report through Promethease, I did searches on the known mutations, the known genes known to have mutations for periodic paralysis. I got to be careful with the way that I say that. So I ran it on like KCNJ2 and SNC4A, I want to say, and CACNA1S. There's a few of them. And the KCNJ2 came up and it was set as no repute, which means that there's not a clear good or bad association with that mutation. And because it was on the KCNJ2, because I already suspected that we have Andersen-Tawil Syndrome in our family based on physical traits, based on symptoms, pretty significant cardiac issues in our family, because I was already suspecting that, and because I was already connected to the community, I was hearing, that another person in my support group might have the same mutation. I had reasonable suspicion to believe that this mutation might be pretty significant. So I had an appointment with Jennifer Pagano, a genetic counselor at Advent Health. She's on Dr. Jarrett's team. And I listed a bunch of mutations that I found that came up in my Promethease report that have been either previously associated or currently associated with periodic paralysis. And so she agreed to look through those for me, did a fantastic job of taking down my family history, which is really complex. She also mentioned, this is something that we have talked about in our support groups, that there seems to be a lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, MCAS, and POTS that have periodic paralysis. We don't know, the scientists don't know, the researchers don't know if there's a direct connection between those. That's an open question right now. It could just be that we're finding that Ehlers-Danlos, POTS, and MCAS are much more common than we previously thought. So that's not clear, but I thought it was really interesting that she pointed that out during the appointment. And I was honestly really surprised that Dr. Cannon got back with the response that he did. I wasn't expecting that much clarity. I was expecting more of a generic, like, we can't base anything off of these tests kind of answer. And so I was blown away, because a big part of my question to him, and he didn't really answer this directly, but I mean, I guess it's kind of a case-by-case basis. You can't really advise people on this sort of thing. There's a lot of maybe issues there, but I had asked whether gathering mutations using the data from these very popular kits like Ancestry and 23andMe and putting them through tools like Promethease could help identify unknown mutations. And so that wasn't directly answered, but I think that in my case, it's proving to be really helpful. So I don't know, there's still a lot that I don't understand about genetics. I'm definitely not a geneticist. So I don't know, I found this fascinating, because the previous testing that I had was through Invitae, the Periodic Paralysis panel, which is like the standard. Like, if you have symptoms of periodic paralysis and you're over the age of 18, then you can go to your doctor in the US. It's free. This is a free panel. You can go to any doctor and ask them to order it for you, and you can have that test done. It's just a saliva test, if I remember correctly. And I also had the Variantix whole genome sequencing done, and that included the KCNJ5 gene and the associated mutations that are associated with periodic paralysis, because those are not included in Invitae. And the reason that I did that Variantix was because the Periodic the Invitae did not include the KCNJ5. And I also wanted to rule out other possible conditions that might look like periodic paralysis, like mitochondrial diseases, and Variantex looks at mitochondrial diseases as well. I would say the Variantex is very expensive, although the genetic counselor that I spoke to said it is top of the line. That is a top-notch test. So if that's something that you're interested in, like, go for it. It's very pricey. I'm not a rich person, and that was a chunk of change for me. So it was kind of a little bittersweet finding a mutation through Promethease. Like, the Promethease is literally like $12, and you have access to the reports, and you can download the reports and pull them and save them for $12. And you have access for 45 days. And then you can continue to have access, I believe, if you create an account. I haven't figured that part out yet because my 45 days just expired, but that's something I'm hoping to look into in the future. Just a caution that if you do decide to run raw data through Promethease, you might want to consider looking at SNPedia to find out the medical conditions that they cover, because if the particular condition that you're interested in is not featured, then you may or may not get results that are related to that. And there was another thing I wanted to caution. Oh, it's also like not super user friendly. I mean, it is and it isn't. Like, I definitely had to, when I first saw it, I had to get up and walk away and then come back to it. And then I needed to like print out the definitions to like understand what I was reading. And like, they have a really helpful like tour guide thing that helps you through it. So that was helpful. I think for me, primarily, like, understanding the definitions was what helped me. And that's, I believe, on the SNPedia site. It's either on the Promethease or the SNPedia. And they also have like a video tutorial that you can do. So yeah, just know that depending on your raw data, it's not going to necessarily be as in-depth as a test like periodic paralysis, like the Invitae or the Variantex, which I know is weird to say because like it just found a mutation that's not even established yet. It's kind of trippy, but the genetic counselor explained this really well in a scientific great way that was both eloquent and scientific, yet simple enough for me to understand, but I couldn't regurgitate it to you. But anyways, I highly recommend, if you do decide to run raw data through Promethease or any similar tool like that, and you find any mutations that you have concerns about or think you think might explain the symptoms that you're having, definitely bring them to your doctor, bring them to a genetic counselor, ask for a referral to a genetic counselor if you need to, and see if they can evaluate it for you and get you some good information. Because yeah, this is pretty life-changing for me and my family. This is giving me a lot of like peace just over the 7 years. I just feel really like satisfied in having gotten this far and knowing that this is probably the cause of our symptoms, and having a way to kind of like navigate forward as far as symptom management goes and what to look out for. So yeah, I think I hit on all my points that I wanted to hit on. Let me check my little notebook. You guys, these little notebooks that they gave us, this is from the PPA conference. So cute, so cute. It has this like little pocket that you can put things in, like a little pin and stuff. They're so thoughtful, so cute. So that's my little plug for the PPA. They're great. And that's actually, I had reached out to their Ask the Experts page, and that's how I learned from Dr. Cannon about this specific mutation. So highly recommend that if you are specifically looking for answers about periodic paralysis. Let me make sure I got all my bases covered. If you would like to learn more about my diagnostic journey, I'll put an end card at the end of this video. I'll also, because like periodic paralysis can often be misdiagnosed as functional neurological disorder, which I have a FND diagnosis. I'm really not sure what to say anymore because I really don't know if what I've experienced in the past it could be FND in addition to periodic paralysis. That is possible, and that does happen. We have some people in the support group that have both. FND is a very real condition. If you ask, in my opinion, I don't think it's psychological. I think it is having to do with transmission of signals and whatnot, and we just don't have the technology to really explain it well. But if you want to learn about like the dangers, potential pitfalls of the FND diagnosis before getting a periodic paralysis or other diagnosis that could have like life-threatening symptoms, I'm going to put a card at the end of this video for that as well, because that's really important. In FND, a lot of the times they tell patients to not track their symptoms or to think about triggers, because that will actually make things worse for FND patients. But in cases where you have like periodic paralysis or other conditions that might be confused with FND, that can be really detrimental, and that would have been detrimental in my case if I wasn't aware of that going into it. So just be aware of those kind of things. But yeah, I think that was all I wanted to cover with you guys. If you have any like questions or thoughts, or if you want to share your experience, if you've used Promethease or like your 23andMe or Ancestry data to pull information, I'd be really interested to hear your story. Again, like just be really careful with the information that you find out, and especially if you don't want to find out other conditions that you may have, you might not want to look into your genetics that far. You might want to go to an actual geneticist and let them know that you don't want those secondary findings, because that can be really upsetting and just a lot emotionally to deal with. So just be aware that those resources are out there, and yeah, carry on, guys. If you get anything from this, like, don't give up. If you're looking for your mutation, it might take some time. They might not have it discovered yet. We might not have the technology developed well enough yet, but I've been really encouraged. It's been a really like hard battle this past 7 years, but also like these moments of like incredible like insight, and this has probably been like the cherry on top of all of it. So it's been worth it to me. And I felt like I have grown in a lot of ways that I needed to grow from this experience. So I really believe nothing's wasted, and this is I think evidence of that in many ways. But I love you guys, and I hope to chat with you soon. Bye.